Who benefits the most when we buy and sell property? Find out. Hello and welcome to Clearance Rate, a full wrap of the nation's residential property market over the last week. And housing affordability is in the spotlight for all, the buyers, the sellers and the government. Treasurer Joe Hockey says if housing was unaffordable, people wouldn't be buying it. Well, Mr Abbott, they're not, at least not first home buyers anyway. And to add hurt to the pain, a Fairfax Ipsos poll shows just 29% of capital city residents believe housing is affordable for prospective first home buyers. In Sydney, that figure is as low as 15%. In fact, the affordability issue has become such a hot topic, politicians are now copping flack with calls for them to abolish stamp duty. Alarming new figures reveal the property tax has surged a staggering 800% over the past 20 years. New South Wales real estate editor Tim McIntyre is with me, and no wonder the government is doing so well in regards to the property game. This tax is huge.
Yeah, well, as long as the housing boom keeps kicking on, the New South Wales government will make billions of dollars, and they're surpassing the rate every year with the stamp duty that they're bringing in.
Is there any regulation over it? Can they prevent it, put a cap on it from going much higher?
Well, it's probably unlikely that they'll do that, Maura, because the government doesn't like putting a stop to the free money that it's getting from people buying houses. But there have been suggestions like they could raise a broad-based tax like the GST slightly at a federal level, or they could also go back to allowing first home buyers to be exempt from stamp duty for established houses, not just new ones.
Yeah, anything to give those first home buyers. We can see from the numbers then that's just out of touch. Let's have a look at the clearance rate anyway for the last 7 days, and this just goes to show, so for every single sale that is going past each and every weekend, the government is reaping that in with that tax.
That's right, they're making plenty of coin on all of these, and you're looking at Sydney at the moment of 86.5% of 796 auctions, so straight away there's like millions and millions going to the government right there.
It's amazing. And just checking out in terms of private sales for the last 7 days, you can see there, again, there's 3,000 in both Sydney and Melbourne there. That's just a huge volume of properties going through, and this secret money being siphoned off into government coffers.
And this is just houses as well, Maura, like units going through, there's plenty of those too. So the median prices are going up, and as it does, so does the windfall.
Yeah, it's not a set figure, of course, that stamp duty, so it's just depending on how expensive the property is, the more costly the house or the unit, the more you have to pay in stamp duty.
Well, the problem is that they set the brackets for stamp duty back in 1986, and back then they were only going to penalise the people in the very top bracket. So if you had $1 million property back in 1986, you were quite well off, because back then the average house price in Sydney was $98,000. Now though, a lot of people have houses worth more than $1 million, so they pay the top rate of stamp duty. And the second lowest rate is $300,000, which would have been the equivalent of a $3 million house back in 1986. But now everyone pays that bracket.
Yeah, every single person. You don't get much under $300,000 in Sydney or Melbourne, really. In terms of price direction over the last 7 days, what are we seeing?
Well, we're seeing Sydney continue just to level out this month. We've actually gone backwards by 1.5% in for the month, and this is another slight negative fall. Melbourne also coming off because they don't have the same fundamentals in place as Sydney. Melbourne has been outperforming for quite some time. The other markets like flat to negative, not much happening really.
Yeah, it's a little bit of relief, that stabilisation. They've been talking about that for so long. It's actually great that we're starting to see it. Time now for our sticky beak each week into some of the properties that sold. What have you got for me this week, Tim?
Well, this is just a good example. I've just got this one property. We haven't had $1 million dump for a while. This one went for $1.4 million at auction on the weekend. Oh. $200,000 above its reserve.
Oh, and it's just hideous. Obviously, it's like a knockdown or a good bones and a reno, and $200,000 over the reserve. I mean, look. It's just, you're really not getting a livable house for $1 million now, are you? And we saw all those suburbs that are coming online as $1 million suburbs. It's just really
But it's not even $1 million suburb anymore, $1 million dump. It's $1.5 million. It's $1.5 million dump. But that's going up again. That's massive, right? So this is going to be, for whoever buys this, $1.4 million for the opportunity to knock this down and build something else. The amount of money they'll spend by the end, they have way overcapitalised there.
Yeah, that's right. And once those interest rates start going up again, people who have borrowed multi-million dollars for mortgages, be warned.
Yep, we'll start seeing mortgage arrears come up, just like after every property boom, and it'll take people many property cycles to get some of the value back that they've actually put into these properties.
But do remember, of course, in Sydney there is a supply issue, so prices are likely going to just keep on going. That is Clearance Rate for today. More again next week. See you then.